Ambassador Kira Patel stood before the Galactic Council, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic display of Earth's final moments. She didn't flinch as the recording showed her homeworld cracking apart like an egg, its molten core spilling into space. The gathered alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats, perhaps finally realizing that her calm demeanor wasn't diplomatic training, it was something far more dangerous. High Commander Vexthor, she addressed the Zexarian representative, her voice carrying the weight of 7 billion dead souls. Would you care to explain to this council why your empire conducted an unauthorized gravitational experiment in a protected system? The crystalline being's faceted surface rippled with patterns of light, their species equivalent of a dismissive shrug. The experiment was within acceptable parameters. The cascade failure was unexpected. We extend our regrets for any inconvenience. Several council members gasped at the casual response. The Meridian representative, a being of pure energy, flickered with shock. They all knew of humanity's recent arrival on the galactic stage, their quick integration into council affairs, their eagerness to share their culture and technology. What they didn't know was why humans had insisted on certain unusual additions to various interstellar treaties over the past decades. They were about to find out. Computer, Kira's voice cut through the murmuring chamber, please display Treaty Document 47B, Section 12, Paragraph 3. The one about experimental physics in inhabited systems. The holographic display shifted, showing a seemingly innocuous diplomatic clause that humanity had insisted on including in every major galactic agreement they'd signed. The text floated in the air, in the event of catastrophic planetary destruction due to unauthorized experimental procedures, all prior diplomatic and military restrictions on affected species are automatically null and void. We didn't just predict this moment, Kira continued, her smile now showing teeth. We planned for it. Computer, execute Protocol Prometheus. The chamber's displays erupted with new information as humanity's carefully maintained facade fell away. Hidden shipyards, massive fleets that had been carefully kept off every official record, weapons technologies that humans had convinced the galaxy they were decades away from developing, all revealed in an instant. You see, Kira explained, pacing the chamber floor, humans have a saying, hope for the best, plan for the worst. When we joined the galactic community, we hoped we'd found a true fellowship of species. But we planned for the possibility that we'd found something else, a galaxy full of powers that might one day view our homeworld as an acceptable casualty in their grand experiments. The Zexarian's crystalline form vibrated with what might have been fear. You cannot possibly think to challenge the Zexarian Empire. We have dominated space for 30,000 years. 30,000 years of peace made you arrogant, Kira replied. Humanity's history is written in blood and fire. We've spent most of our existence fighting, ourselves, nature, the very limits of physics. We didn't join the galactic community because we wanted to. We did it to study you, to understand you, to learn your weaknesses. New alerts began flashing across the chamber's displays. Thousands of human ships were appearing everywhere, dropping out of hyperspace in configurations that should have been impossible. Their designs were dark, angular, bristling with weapons that had definitely not been included in humanity's official military capabilities report. We named our ships after the ancient gods of war, Kira continued, her voice taking on an almost educational tone. The Greeks believed Nemesis was the goddess of divine retribution. The Norse had Tyr, god of justice through combat. The Aztecs worshipped Huitzilopochtli, who fed on the blood of the unworthy. She paused, letting the implications sink in. Would you like to know what we named our flagship? The chamber had gone deadly silent. Even the ambient humming of environmental systems seemed muted. We named it Karma, Kira said softly. Because another human saying is, what goes around, comes around. And right now, everything humanity has held back for the past 50 years is about to come around. She turned to address the full council. To the rest of you, stay out of this. We like most of you, we truly do. Some of our best friends aren't human. But right now, humanity needs to do what it does best, remind the galaxy why every species' first instinct should be to run when they see someone about to make a terrible mistake. The Zexarian representative's crystalline form was now vibrating rapidly. This is madness. You'll start a war you cannot win. No, Kira corrected him. We're finishing a war you started when you destroyed our home. The only difference is, we've spent 50 years preparing for it. She smiled, and there was nothing diplomatic about it now. You should have read the fine print when we taught everyone about the concept of fuck around and find out. As she walked out of the chamber, the displays showed human ships moving into attack positions around every major Zexarian world. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had spent so much time teaching other species about concepts like consequences, karma, and the danger of underestimating something simply because it looked harmless. The lesson would be unforgettable. Fleet Admiral James Okafor stood on the bridge of the HSS Karma, watching tactical displays light up with thousands of contact signatures. Each represented a human warship dropping out of hyperspace, emerging from hidden bases and secret shipyards scattered across multiple galaxies. 50 years of preparation were culminating in this moment. Status report, he commanded, his deep voice carrying the weight of authority earned through decades of service. All battle groups reporting ready, Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Reyes responded, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Operation Reckoning is proceeding exactly as planned. The Zexarians are scrambling their defense fleets, but they're completely disorganized. They never expected an attack of this scale. James allowed himself a grim smile. Of course they hadn't. The Zexarians, like most ancient spacefaring races, had grown complacent in their power. They'd forgotten what it meant to face an enemy who had nothing left to lose. Launch the first wave, he ordered. Execute pattern Thermopylae. Across Zexarian space, human ships began moving in formations that defied conventional military doctrine. The Zexarians had studied human warfare, of course, but they'd studied the sanitized version humanity had shown the galaxy. They weren't prepared for the real thing. Sir, Reyes called out, the Zexarian High Command is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding our surrender. Put them through, James replied, straightening his uniform. It's time they understood exactly what they've started. The holographic display flickered, revealing Supreme Commander Vexthor's crystalline form. This is madness, the alien leader's translated voice boomed. You cannot hope to defeat an empire that has stood for 30 millennia. Supreme Commander, James responded calmly, I want you to understand something. When humanity joined the galactic community, we didn't just prepare for war. We prepared for this specific war. Every ship you're seeing was built for one purpose, to make your empire pay for what we knew someone like you would eventually do. The tactical displays showed the first wave of human ships engaging Zexarian defenders. But instead of using the expected energy weapons and gravitational disruptors, the human vessels deployed something else entirely. What is this? Vexthor demanded as reports of the bizarre weapons effects began flooding in. These aren't standard military technologies. No, James agreed. They're weapons designed specifically to target crystalline life forms. We studied your biology, your technology, your cultural weaknesses. Every ship in our fleet carries weapons tailored to exploit specific vulnerabilities in your species. The first wave of attacks demonstrated this with brutal efficiency. Specialized frequency weapons shattered Zexarian ships from the inside out. Targeted electromagnetic pulses disrupted their crystalline neural networks. Weapons that would have been considered primitive by galactic standards proved devastating against an enemy that had forgotten how to defend against them. You see, James continued, humans have a unique approach to warfare. We don't just prepare to fight, we prepare to win. Every minute of every day for the past 50 years, we've been thinking about how to defeat you specifically. While you saw us as simple newcomers to the galactic stage, we were studying every aspect of your civilization. The tactical displays showed Zexarian fleets falling into disarray as human ships executed maneuvers that seemed to defy logic, because they'd been designed to exploit specific weaknesses in Zexarian tactical doctrine. "Admiral," Reyes interrupted, "we're detecting Zexarian reinforcements entering the sector. They're deploying their legendary World Breaker fleet." James nodded. They'd expected this. Execute Phase 2. Deploy the ghost ships. Across the battlefield, a new type of human vessel decloaked. These ships were different, smaller, faster, and completely invisible to Zexarian sensors. They'd been designed using principles the Zexarians had dismissed as theoretical impossibilities. Impossible. Vexthor's crystalline form flickered with what might have been fear. "Your technology level couldn't possibly." "We lied," James stated simply. "Every technological assessment we provided to the galactic community was a carefully crafted deception. We showed you what we wanted you to see, led you to underestimate us, all while preparing for this moment." The ghost ships demonstrated their effectiveness as they slipped through the Zexarian defense lines, targeting command and control nodes with surgical precision. The mighty World Breaker fleet, terror of the galaxy for millennia, found itself fighting an enemy it couldn't detect, using tactics it couldn't predict. "Your empire made a fundamental mistake," James continued, watching the battle unfold. "You assumed that because we were younger, because we hadn't mastered casual manipulation of fundamental forces like you had, that we were less advanced. You never considered that we might have simply chosen to develop different technologies specifically designed to counter yours." The battle continued to unfold across multiple star systems, but it was already clear which way the tide was turning. The Zexarian forces, for all their advanced technology and millennia of experience, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn by an enemy that had spent half a century preparing specifically for this fight. "This isn't a war, Supreme Commander," James concluded. "This is a reckoning. You destroyed our home, killed our families, and called it an unexpected cascade failure. Now you're going to learn why every human child knows the story of David and Goliath, and why we've always identified with David." As the transmission ended, James turned back to the tactical display. "Send word to all fleet commands. Execute final phase of Operation Reckoning. Let's show them why we named our ships after gods of vengeance." The galaxy was about to witness the full extent of humanity's preparation, and learn why underestimating a species that had perfected the art of asymmetric warfare was a fatal mistake. Dr. Samira Hassan stood before the holographic displays in humanity's Psychological Operations Command Center, watching as decades of careful cultural manipulation bore fruit. As Earth's former leading xenoanthropologist and current head of strategic cultural warfare, she had spent years preparing for this moment. "Begin Operation Mimetic Cascade," she commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Deploy all cultural packages." Around her, specialists began activating programs that had been embedded in Zexarian communication networks for decades. Every screen in their empire suddenly began displaying carefully crafted human cultural messages, not random propaganda, but precisely targeted psychological warfare based on deep understanding of Zexarian psychology. Director Hassan, one of her analysts, called out, "Package Alpha is showing 87% penetration across their civilian networks. The Zexarian leadership is trying to block the transmissions, but they can't," Samira finished, allowing herself a small smile. "Because we spent 50 years teaching them to love our media, our memes, our stories. We made ourselves so entertaining, so fascinating, that they built their entire communications infrastructure to be compatible with our formats." The displays showed the effects rippling across Zexarian space. Their crystalline forms were highly sensitive to certain frequencies of light and sound, frequencies that humans had carefully incorporated into seemingly harmless entertainment media for decades. "Ma'am," another analyst reported, "we're detecting widespread disruption in their military command structure. The embedded patterns in our cultural packages are triggering the predicted responses." Samira nodded. "Activate the second wave. Deploy the mythology protocols. New images began flooding Zexarian networks, carefully constructed narratives that played on their species' deep-seated cultural fears. Humanity had spent years studying their myths, their taboos, their nightmares. Now they were using that knowledge with surgical precision. "Director," a voice called from the communication station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Zexarian Cultural Ministry." "Put them through," Samira ordered, straightening her posture. The holographic display materialized, showing a cluster of crystalline forms vibrating with obvious distress. "What have you done?" the lead minister demanded. "Our people are, there. They're experiencing cognitive resonance cascade," Samira explained calmly. "Every piece of human entertainment media you've consumed over the past 50 years contained carefully engineered mimetic codes. Harmless individually, but when activated in the right sequence." The minister's crystalline form flickered erratically. "But we screened everything. Our best psychologists analyzed all human cultural imports." "Yes," Samira agreed, "you did. And we made sure those psychologists were trained using textbooks we provided, using psychological models we developed, taught in universities that used our educational frameworks. We didn't just prepare for war, we prepared to win it before it began." Across Zexarian space, their civilization was experiencing what would later be termed cultural shock and awe. Every story humans had shared, every meme they had spread, every piece of art they had distributed, all were revealing their true purpose as weapons in a war 50 years in the making. "Your people's greatest weakness," Samira continued, "is your belief that culture and warfare are separate things. Humans learned long ago that everything is a weapon if you understand how to use it. We turned our very culture into a delivery system for vengeance." The displays showed Zexarian military bases falling into chaos as commanders found themselves unable to issue orders. Their communication protocols had been subtly altered over decades to respond to hidden human control signals. Their automated defense systems, programmed using standards humans had helped develop, suddenly recognized their own ships as hostile. "But why?" the minister asked, their voice carrying genuine confusion. "Why go to such lengths?" "Because you needed to understand," Samira replied, her voice taking on an edge of steel. "You needed to learn that destroying our home wasn't just an act of violence, it was an act of profound cultural ignorance. You failed to understand what humanity is, what drives us, what we're capable of when pushed too far." She gestured to a new set of displays, showing Zexarian civilians sharing human messages of resistance, human symbols of defiance. "We didn't just prepare to destroy your military, we prepared to reshape your entire civilization. Every child's story we shared, every song we taught you, every piece of art we distributed, they were all carefully designed to activate at this moment, to turn your own people against the empire that killed our world." The minister's crystalline form had stopped vibrating, frozen in what might have been horror. "You've been planning this since first contact." "Of course we have," Samira confirmed. "Because humans understand something your empire forgot long ago, true power isn't just about weapons or technology. It's about understanding your enemy so completely that you can turn their own culture against them." As the transmission ended, Samira turned to her team. "Initiate final phase of Operation Mimetic Cascade. Deploy the legacy protocols." Across Zexarian space, their most sacred cultural symbols began transforming, their meanings shifting as carefully planted human mimetic codes activated. An empire that had stood for 30,000 years was discovering that its greatest enemy wasn't humanity's ships or weapons, it was the stories they had told, the songs they had sung, and the cultural time bombs they had spent 50 years planting in every corner of Zexarian civilization. The galaxy was learning that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tactics, it was their understanding that culture itself could be the deadliest weapon of all. Commander Raj Sharma stood in the depths of Project Prometheus, humanity's most closely guarded secret. The massive underground facility, hidden beneath the surface of a rogue planet, housed the true extent of humanity's preparation for revenge. "Status report on Operation Shatterpoint," he ordered, watching as streams of data flowed across the quantum displays surrounding him. All systems executing as planned, Commander, Dr. Isabella Rodriguez responded, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. The quantum entanglement network we secretly embedded in their crystalline technology is fully activated. We're seeing cascading failures across their entire empire. Raj nodded grimly. For 50 years, humanity had done more than just study Xerian technology, they had subtly guided its development. Every trade agreement, every technological exchange, every seemingly generous offer to help upgrade their systems had been part of an intricate plan. "Show me the Empire's current status," he commanded. The main display expanded, revealing a map of Xerian space lit up with thousands of red warning indicators. "Their quantum communication network is collapsing," Isabella explained. "Every piece of technology we helped them improve over the last 5 decades contained dormant quantum triggers. When activated, they create a feedback loop in their crystalline computing systems. Across Xerian space, their mighty empire was discovering the true cost of underestimating humanity. Their most advanced technologies, the very systems they had proudly developed with human assistance, were turning against them in ways their scientists couldn't even understand, let alone prevent." "Incoming transmission from the Xerian Science Council," announced Lieutenant Wei Zhang. "They're begging for help." "Display," Raj ordered, his expression hardened by memories of Earth's destruction. The hologram materialized, showing a group of Xerian scientists, their crystalline forms dulled with stress. "Please," their lead researcher pleaded, "our systems are failing across all sectors. Our colony worlds are losing life support. Our ships are going dark. How is this possible?" "It's possible," Raj explained calmly, "because every technological advancement we helped you achieve over the past 50 years was designed to fail at exactly this moment. Those quantum computing improvements we shared, they contained encoded vulnerabilities. The crystalline matrix enhancements we helped develop, they were engineered to create catastrophic resonance patterns when activated." He gestured to the displays showing the cascade of failures spreading across their empire. "You thought we were being generous, sharing our technological insights. In reality, we were building the most elaborate trap in galactic history. But your technology was inferior to ours," one scientist protested. "We verified everything. We improved upon your designs." "No," Isabella cut in, stepping forward. "You modified them exactly as we predicted you would. Every improvement you made followed the development paths we subtly laid out for you. We didn't just anticipate your responses, we engineered them." The displays showed new alerts as vital Xerian systems continued to fail. Their proud empire, built on crystalline technology that they believed made them invincible, was discovering that their very strength had become their greatest weakness. "Commander," Wei called out, "we're detecting massive energy fluctuations in their core world's defense systems. The quantum cascade is reaching critical levels." Raj's expression remained stern. "Initiate Protocol Omega. Let's show them what 50 years of patient planning really looks like." Across Xerian space, their most advanced defensive systems, the very ones they had proudly enhanced using human quantum principles, began to turn inward. Planetary shields collapsed. Weapon systems shut down. Transportation networks froze. An empire that had stood for 30,000 years was being systematically dismantled by the very technology they had assumed made them superior. "You didn't just destroy Earth," Raj addressed the stunned scientists. "You destroyed the home of a species that had spent its entire history preparing for disasters, planning for contingencies, and learning from its mistakes. We didn't just plan for revenge, we planned for absolute victory." The displays showed the final phase of humanity's plan unfolding. Hidden quantum triggers activated in every piece of Xerian technology that had been influenced by human designs over the past 5 decades. Their civilization, which had prided itself on its technological superiority, watched helplessly as that very technology became the instrument of their downfall. "Your empire's greatest mistake," Raj concluded, "wasn't destroying Earth. It was assuming that a younger species couldn't possibly have outmaneuvered you. You never questioned why we were so eager to help you improve your technology, why we worked so hard to integrate our systems with yours. As the transmission ended, he turned to his team. Initiate final countdown. Let's finish what they started when they destroyed our home. The galaxy was about to witness the full fruition of humanity's patience, a revenge 50 years in the making, executed not through brute force, but through careful manipulation of an empire's pride in its own technological superiority. The Zexarians were learning, too late, that true power lay not in having advanced technology, but in understanding how it could be turned against you. 1 year after the fall of the Zexarian Empire, Ambassador Kira Patel stood once again before the Galactic Council, but this time the chamber felt different. The air was heavy with a new understanding of humanity, not as the quirky newcomers who loved sharing their culture, but as a force that had systematically dismantled one of the oldest empires in known space. The reconstruction of former Zexarian space continues as planned, she reported, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. Their surviving colonies have been reformed into independent systems, their military capabilities have been permanently reduced, and their technology has been restructured to prevent any future attempts at empire building. The council chamber's displays showed the transformed regions of space that had once been the Zexarian Empire. Where there had once been a monolithic crystal-based civilization, now there were dozens of independent worlds, each rebuilding under human supervision. Some have questioned the thoroughness of our response, Kira continued, addressing the unspoken concerns in the room. They wonder if we went too far, if our revenge exceeded the scope of the original crime. The Meridian representative, their energy form flickering with concern, spoke up. The complete dismantling of a 30,000-year-old empire does seem disproportionate. Kira's smile was gentle but carried an edge of steel. Disproportionate? Let me tell you about disproportionate. Every human child now grows up learning about a world they'll never see. Every human carries the memory of a blue planet that exists only in historical records. Our response wasn't about proportion, it was about ensuring that no species would ever again view the destruction of a homeworld as an acceptable risk. She gestured to new displays showing the Earth Memorial that had been constructed in what was once the heart of Zexarian space. The massive structure, built from reclaimed crystalline technology, contained perfect holographic recreations of every city, every landscape, every ecosystem that had been lost. But there's something else you should understand, Kira continued. Something about humans that the Zexarians failed to grasp until it was too late. We don't just remember, we learn. We adapt. We evolve. The displays shifted to show the new human colonies spreading across the galaxy, each one built with technology and defenses that incorporated everything they had learned from their victory over the Zexarians. Humanity didn't just survive the destruction of Earth, we emerged stronger, more united, more determined than ever. We took everything we learned from this conflict and used it to ensure that we can never be made vulnerable again. The council chamber was silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just won a war, they had fundamentally changed the balance of power in the galaxy. But perhaps the most important lesson, Kira added, her voice softening slightly, is one that we hope every species takes to heart. Humanity is not vengeful by nature. We prefer peace, friendship, cultural exchange. We would rather share our stories than our weapons, our art than our anger. She paused, making eye contact with each council member. However, we will never forget. Not just Earth's destruction, but the lesson it taught us, that in a galaxy of ancient powers, the ability to adapt, to plan, to wait patiently for the right moment, can overcome any technological advantage. The displays showed final images of the transformed galaxy, a new order where humanity's influence was felt not through dominance, but through the careful balance of friendship and deterrence. The Zexarian Empire is gone, Kira concluded, but humanity's memory remains. We will continue to explore, to learn, to share our culture with the galaxy. We will forge new friendships, build new alliances, and work towards a future where no species needs to fear the casual destruction of their homeworld. As she finished speaking, the council chamber erupted in discussion, but the message was clear. The galaxy had witnessed not just the fall of an empire, but the rise of something new, a humanity that had proven itself capable of playing the long game, of turning patience into power, and of ensuring that the destruction of Earth would serve as an eternal reminder of the price of arrogance. In the centuries that followed, the story would be told countless times across the galaxy, not just as a warning, but as a complex lesson about consequence and capability. Species that might have once dismissed humans as newcomers now studied their history carefully, learning to recognize the patience behind their friendliness, the planning behind their openness, and the steel behind their smiles. And on countless worlds, when young beings asked why humans were treated with such careful respect, they would be told the story of Earth, of vengeance 50 years in the making, and of an empire that learned too late that technological superiority means nothing against a species that has mastered the art of playing the long game. The galaxy had changed, and at its heart was a simple truth: humanity had not just avenged Earth, they had ensured its destruction would never be forgotten, and would never be repeated.